Hey guys, I'm Amber. I'm presenting on chapters 10 through 13 of A People's Ecology. It's definitely been my favorite book we've read in the class so far because of how applicable all the concepts are and just the really hopeful tone that it's written in. So I'm going to start with chapter 10. Chapter 10 goes over a Latin healing process called curanderismo, which translates to folk medicine. There are 8 basic subsets of understandings or premises defining curanderismo discussed in the book, but I'm just going to go over a few because it would take forever to go over all 8. The first one is mind and body are inseparable. It says emotional and mental states can lead to different health conditions, and one of the examples of this was the feeling of hopelessness for a long period of time can lead to an increased risk for cardiovascular disease. Doctors seem to be really quick about addressing the physical problems that people are having, but they tend to kind of ignore the mental side of that might even be leading towards the actual physical problem. I have a friend who does these videos about becoming president one day, and one of the things he said he would do is like requiring people to go to therapy like once a month. I don't think I would ever consider requiring it, but I do think that going to therapy and getting like mental health help should be more of a priority than it is right now, or at least be more normalized. The 5th one is healing requires family participation and participation by the patient. And I actually have a personal example of this. I know a guy who's been in the hospital since November, and he has an adult daughter that has not come to visit him a single time. And I wonder, with this subset, if she did visit him and if he had that like support, if he would be healing better and have more motivation to get better. The 7th one is the sick person must be socialized. And I have a quote, it's from page 217. The patient must recognize his importance and that he belongs. So it's basically saying that expressing to people that they still matter is literally a part of their healing. That's definitely something we need to remember a lot, because when people get sick, a lot of the times we don't feel like they're as important as they were when they were good, like healthy. So I'm going to move on to chapter 11. And chapter 11 goes over how everything is connected and part of a cycle. The example that they give is when birds eat berries and then they fly away and their droppings have the berry seeds in them and they end up planting more berries, and so then those berry bushes grow up and they can feed other birds. Something in this chapter that really excited me, and an example that they gave of this concept of a cycle and everything working together being really important, is the neighborhood called Village Homes in Davis, California. These homes they're designed, well, I'll read a quote in a second, but they're designed to be good for the planet. They're whole neighborhoods that all work together. They have like tons of community space, like community gardens, and basically it's like public ground that everyone can contribute to the gardens. The quote from their website says, "It was designed to encourage both the development of a sense of community and the conservation of energy and natural resources." So the other things they have is like natural drainage systems. All the houses are energy efficient and things like that, because they realize that living space should complement the cycle, like the earthly cycle. They shouldn't be fighting against the cycle. There was 2 favorite quotes that I picked out from this chapter, and I'll read them now. The first one is, when humans understand that everything around them is alive and that it is sacred, nothing is trivial. Everything is important. This one kind of reminded me of how a lot of times people think that making differences isn't important because you're just one person. And I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit to the other quote, but an example is like becoming a vegan. They're like, you're not going to be able to make that much of a difference by one person not eating meat. And that leads into the next quote, which is, human actions are no longer small and meaningless, but are important and powerful. Too often we're made to believe we can't make a difference, but we can because we're powerful and we're part of a cycle. We are, even though we're one person, we're still part of that cycle and we still do make a difference. So now I'll go to chapter 12. Chapter 12 goes over the principles that consider the spiritual and psychological factors that contribute to human well-being. If you didn't read the chapter, or maybe you don't remember this very well, I'll go ahead and I'll read through all of these. They are talking about things that make buildings and architecture contribute to human well-being. So I'll read the list. Consideration of natural light, illumination, and color, this is something that I did recently when I was looking for an apartment. I asked a ton of questions about which direction the apartment was facing, which direction the windows were facing, because I really want to get a lot of natural light, because that's something that really makes me feel good. Architectural proportion and harmonic order of space, minimization of manufactured electromagnetic fields, respect for living arrangements of families and the larger community, use of natural and local materials, use of energy-efficient materials in building systems, use of solar energy and radiant heat sources. I didn't really have many thoughts on chapter 12, so I'm just going to go ahead and move forward to chapter 13. So chapter 13 talked a lot about like a grocery store system, and it goes over how grocery stores, like ideal grocery stores, would provide healthy natural food, educational programs, pay people well, support green nonprofits, and celebrate indigenous culture, local culture, and food tradition. So all the things that they were talking about made this sound like a lot more than the grocery store that we commonly think of, where we just leave, we get our food, whether it's healthy or not, and then we don't even give it a second thought. It's not really a part of our lives. But this grocery store is something that really interacts with the community that it's in and actually contributes a lot to people's lives. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking that owning a grocery store like this, like nobody thinks about owning a grocery store being like their lifelong dream, but I think owning a grocery store like this could actually be really fulfilling. And I think that it's a really important thing, and that some people should start considering owning a grocery store. So I'll go ahead and read the little conclusion that I wrote, because I don't think I could say it this nicely ever again. So my conclusion is, everything I discussed showed how important it is to look at things in a big picture way rather than approaching a problem from a single angle. And I talk about examples from the chapters that I just read. A person will never be truly healthy if you don't treat both the mind and the body. That's referring to the Quran-ismo. A neighborhood will never be more than a shelter unless it's providing housing and community support, and that's talking about the village homes in California. A building will never be a great living space if you don't consider functionality and aesthetics. And a grocery store will never nurture a community unless it's feeding and educating. So thank you all for listening to my presentation, and I really hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.